Okay, welcome to the special city council meeting, budget workshop, Tuesday, January 11th. Would you, let's do the call. Oh, I'm doing call over. Pledge of allegiance. Let's do it. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No roll call.
Beam,
Here.
Siebel,
Here.
Osborne. Here. Smock. Nichols.
Okay, the first item on our agenda for tonight is request to purchase heat pump for the CRC heating system in the amount of $6,380 from Air Services as budgeted for FY22. Just to give you a little bit of history, I did put out in front of you, I did obtain another quote. I was requested by a couple council people to get another quote. But we've had, it's quite the system. If you ever get an opportunity, I think you've seen it. It's kind of overkill. So we finally found Air Services that actually knew how to work on it. That's kind of the history behind it. So we had made an agreement with them for over a 5-year period that we were going to replace all the heat pumps because they said we could probably get by with doing one a year. They were several years old. That system was actually coming up to 20 years old. So that's what we're doing. I think this is going to be our 4th one that we replaced.
This one's not in budget though, right? This
It
one
is.
just broke. Oh, no.
Oh, no,
Did one break? I
it
thought-
did,
Okay.
but it's been budgeted every year. We started budgeting them every single
This
year.
is gonna be the one.
This,
for-
yeah, this will be the 4th one out of 6 that we replaced.
So why is it so, like, weird, or what, I mean, is it, or Airstream, or Air Services gonna fix that? Why is it so complicated?
Well, it was like we had Young out here, we had Vernon out here, and Air Services. We were just trying to find someone. We actually went to a consulting group to give us their professional opinion. It just, I don't think it was probably ever right. I know that they, at one point, had went back to the engineer and, the contractor that put that system in. I guess it was just never designed properly for the building. At one point, we were gonna scrap it and put all new heating and cooling in. That would have been hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably more than, like, who knows, hundreds of thousands of dollars it would cost the city. So we just upgraded some of the items in this system itself. And now we're on kind of a maintenance agreement to do this.
We've been getting a report of like, what is the system when they're doing the monthly maintenance? Have they found anything, or is it just status quo?
Well, actually, through this and looking through and trying to figure out even for budget, for this year's budget, or the one we're working on tonight, I was like, well, they haven't been doing the maintenance, and today I was looking for a maintenance agreement, and so I asked actually Dan, the owner of Air Services, to reach out to me, and I'm waiting for a call back from him. Like, where we at? I thought we were gonna do an annual service, like just an annual service, so I need to find out what's really going on with that.
Yeah. On the quote that we got from Air Services, was that 6,000?
6380.
And so what we have, like, on this budget, I'm just asking because I just.
It was actually, we budgeted 6,000.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have to bump that up a little bit, and that was, actually last year, we got them cheaper.
So
So
the
we
3,000.
ended up actually getting 2 last year for like 11,400. So we saved $600 last year.
So why does it say 3,000 on here, on the budget? Like,
This is 3,000 for fire and 3,000 for police.
Thanks, I'm learning,
Yeah.
sorry.
No.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, there it is.
And that was on your on your cover page.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, but I
Yeah.
didn't look and see that.
Turn the heat off.
Sentence.
We turn the heat off so we can hear a little better.
Yeah.
Radar.
Plus, it just, I don't know why, it just, the heat just goes, it's already up to 75 in here.
Body heat.
Don't try it in Kansas.
Hey, what kind of temperature do you have today?
Oh, 54.
50. Oh my God. Wow. So do you have any additional questions regarding that?
No.
Okay.
I wanna thank you for getting that second one. I
Yeah.
didn't, it helps me understand it, so
Sure.
I appreciate it.
Well, and I think that initially, if I'm not mistaken, the time we were having a lot of issues with that, we did a lot of upgrades to it. I don't think Young was interested at that time quoting that business. So, but they were this time, so I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, and I did have just so you know, I did have a conversation with Evansdale a little while back about the CRC and what he knew about the air system and whatnot. And he also said to go with AirServe, that they're the only ones that use it, because it's pretty crazy, so.
Yeah, if you get an opportunity sometime and want one of the guys to show you, it's a monstrosity, it's geothermal to begin with, it's not necessarily always a good idea to put geothermal in Iowa. So, but that's that. Next on our agenda is the budget workshop.
Do you want a
What's that?
motion?
Oh, yeah.
I make a
Good
motion,
idea.
I make a motion to approve the request for $63.80 for the heat pump for the CRC system from Air Services as budgeted.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now next on the agenda is the budget workshop. There really hasn't been much that changed. We kind of, Tom with the Parks Department and I kind of sat down and went over when I was actually budgeting for the Parks Department, and it was kind of based on last year's hours. And our guys really put a lot of time into the Park Department because they were the ones that were removing all that playground equipment and helping, they had just a lot of hours because of that. So we did go back, and that would be the page 5. We did go back and reevaluate the regular wages based on a year where that wasn't, because it was really pretty much time consuming, which we got reimbursed for that. And then adjusted the temporary, seasonal, and all the rest of it is pretty similar. The only thing I don't have from Parks, it's got several items filled in, but I don't have their building ground maintenance, their ice pop, miscellaneous, gas and oil, vehicle operational equipment. So I'm still waiting for their items. I don't think that they're gonna be meeting until the first week of February. So the first Monday of February. Hopefully we'll get that maybe within the next day after that. So other than that, both Chris and Chief Dean are here. If you have any questions for them regarding their budget, or questions in general.
I got a question on the police budget.
Okay,
Or pertains to Elk Run Heights. What does that cover?
What does it cover, as far as our patrolling?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you mean. I'm not sure what you mean as far as what does it cover.
I mean, how many hours, how many,
I think our agreement was 28 hours,
I think we're at 25, aren't we?
25 maybe.
25.
25 hours a week spent over there patrolling.
But then if they have a problem after that 28 hours, are they charged extra for that?
If some,
Like if they had somebody called right now and they had an accident or somebody held up a store?
no, I don't know, they're not charged above and beyond that, and I think probably the reason why is it's not a set in stone 25 hours, because if we were to have something big happen here in Evansdale that would occupy a lot of our time where we might not be able to fulfill that 25 hours, say this week, it's kind of a give and take, is kind of the way I would describe it. Does that make sense?
Well, I figured it up and it cost, for Evansdale residents at $4,561, $175 a piece to have police protection. Elk Run Heights has got $1,069, it costs them $46.26. And basically, they've got the same deal, if there's something happens over there, even if you're not during them 8 hours, you still show up.
True, but the agreement is 25 hours a week, where Evansdale's getting a lot more of our time than Elk Run is.
Yeah, but if they have a problem, you're there. So they're basically 24-hour service.
Yep.
And we're over three times more than Evansdale residents pay. Because I can sit down in my house, I might not see it for 2 days. I'm not saying you didn't go by, I just didn't see it.
Sure.
And the same thing there, if something happens, you're gonna answer that call.
Yep.
So basically, they have the same service we have, other than you're not present in their town, which is 2 minutes away.
Yep, I understand that. I mean, that's, the beginnings of those negotiations were kind of put together before I come into
No,
chief's position.
I understand that.
And they kind of worked off that same structure over the years. I think it's been increased slightly over the years, but yeah, I wasn't the person who originated that agreement.
I think it's a very poor agreement, and why should the citizens of Evansdale pay 3 and 4 times more for the same protection that they're getting? That's what I'm getting at.
Well, again, I wouldn't necessarily agree that they're getting the same protection. I mean, we probably spend a lot more time in Evansdale patrolling than we do in Elk Run.
Yeah, well, the price puts that, but they have the same coverage. If something happens, you go there.
Yep.
If something happens here, you go there to where the thing happens. So they have basically the same coverage for, like I say, $46 a person versus $175 per person in Evansdale, and that's man, woman, and child.
Okay, so if we say that, let's say we look at it in round numbers and say 100%. We spend 75% of our time in Elk Run, or in Evansdale, and 25% of our time in Elk Run. Is that equal?
They're not, no, it's not equal, because it's only costing them $46 a person, it's costing us $175.
My point is we're spending, of that 100% of time, we're spending a quarter of our time over there and 3/4 of our time here.
But if anything happens over there during your 3/4 of the time here, you answer that call.
That's
And
true.
you're not much different, you may not come back by my house, maybe not at all that day, so.
Our call volume over there is very low.
But they're still paying for the service. If something happens, you're there.
Okay, well, that's my answer to your question. I mean, I guess we could debate this all night, but.
No, I know we can argue back and forth, but I figure why did they pull out of the library deal? Because they got a better deal someplace else?
Don't know what went on there, really. Are we looking into going to check with the wireless schools for the SRO grant to get more money than what we've been doing?
I asked for a 2.75% increase this year. We got a 3% increase last year. And I haven't received a response yet.
There's a lot of people that's what I'm laughing at, it's what we pay and what they pay.
Yeah, just a little background, actually, when the last agreement was signed, it was one of those situations where I felt the same way, Ron, and, I was under the understanding that we were going to try to, close that margin with any future agreement, a lot closer, but we weren't going to hit them with that total, right away, so, I would think that we would wanna close that market up.
It's hard to understand, everything muffled. Read that with my ears.
So Charles, am I hearing you saying you wanted to close that market up or close the difference up or?
Close the difference up. We had discussed, last time that we had the agreement with them. I've gone back on a population base and done the same work that Ron has done, and I found it pretty outrageous that our fees compared to theirs were, so much different. When we've got maintenance incurred, vehicles incurred, fuel, gas, everything the city of Evansdale supplying, for the CRC, and the Evansdale, residents, in my opinion, are trying to get a little rate, compared to, the Elk Run, scenario. And at that time, I know Troy upped the amount a little bit, but didn't want to hit them with it all at once, with the understanding that eventually we were going to have to go in that direction and close that gap. Because it's not fair to Evansdale residents.
So what kind of increase do you want us to propose to them?
I would say something that's more equal. We have the investment, all they're paying is like renting it. And if you rent something, you make more on it than what you paid for it because you gotta come out ahead. That's the same.
Well, what I got is all of those to pull out of it completely, and the sheriff's department will start covering them, and then I heard that the sheriff's department wouldn't start covering them because they won't be, their main source. So I've heard of those ways, and I think we need to close that gap by upping those percentages, maybe 12.5% increase this year.
Is this a contract we have with them, like a actual
Yes.
farm?
Yeah.
Do we look at this contract every year?
Yes,
Okay.
generally speaking, we do. There hasn't been any talk of it, but we'd only had one budget meeting, so.
When is it due again? The contract means we're talking about revision.
It's fiscal year, so
Oh, so
July
it is.
1st, yeah.
So what do you
I mean,
think?
what would we do? I don't know if I'd hit them with 12.5% all at once, but I think you can make a journey to that. Maybe try for 5% this year, 5% next year. Maybe an agreement 5% each year for the next 3 years.
The thing is, they're paying less than half of what the residents of Evansdale are paying right now.
But we're gonna pay what we pay regardless if we contract with them or not. Is that correct?
Then it means that
So we'll have less maintenance, we'll have more coverage for what we are paying, because our guys won't be, having to cover over in Elk Run. So we will actually be better covered, and that's the situation. The only thing that concerns me is, from what I understand, we're also in an agreement that we've got to cover them anyway because we're the closest. So
That's not true.
I would like to know more about that agreement.
I'm not aware of that agreement, Charles.
No, we're not.
We're not obligated.
We're not
at all.
obligated to answer their calls. If they were to go back to the sheriff's office would answer their calls. One thing I would like to speak to, Ron's point, if something were to happen over there. For example, about a year ago, we had a home invasion that happened over there. And that required a lot of our time. But the sheriff's office also came out and helped us work that situation. And so the sheriff's office may start to feel as if, if the sheriff's gonna have his guys over there doing work anyway, he may as well just take it back over. It's neither here nor there to me. I guess it's the will of the council whether they want to, continue some sort of an agreement with the Elk Run. But I guess my point is that the sheriff's office does still, even though they're not under any kind of obligation with Elk Run, they still help us out when stuff does happen over there, stuff on a bigger scale, like this home invasion that we had.
Yeah, but that's what we're paying taxes for the county for, is for that type of service.
I don't think the sheriff has any obligation to come over there and help us if he doesn't see
I
fit.
don't know. If you're understaffed or something, that's what they're there for, is to back you up or do it or whatever.
You know.
I think it's some good dialogue to maybe, Dan, you to I mean, I think we originally took it on because it was a revenue generated situation.
Right, I mean, okay, so
Well,
let's think about this. I mean, you have to go through Elk Run to do a good share of our city as well. To do the Flying J area, Hunter Drive, back in the Weikert's edition. We have land over there too. I mean, we have to go over there to patrol that land anyway.
And
And we go through Elk Run to do so.
over the years prior to us having any kind of an agreement with Elk Run, we did help out with calls over there as a courtesy. It's to the sheriff's office or to those residents, even when we didn't have any kind of an agreement with them. Our officers still helped out with calls over there. Just food for thought, I guess. I mean, if we didn't have any kind of agreement with Elk Run, we wouldn't necessarily be obligated, although we still would do it.
My question on that is if we didn't have the Elk Run agreement and the miles and the expenses and stuff that are incurred on, I write that down exactly, but if we weren't doing that, even though we get that revenue from what comes in, would we save that much or more by not patrolling there and not having expenses and payroll and vehicles running out there if we're gonna segregate that and not do that? Would we be saving as much or more?
Well, I haven't crunched those numbers, but off the top of my head, I don't think so. Like I said, our call volume over there is relatively low.
I mean, I agree with Ron and Charlie a little bit. I mean, I think we need to look at it. I don't think we need to gouge them. But I think they're getting a good deal, and I don't know the story if they go back to the county. You'd probably know more about that than us. But I know they flip-flopped around a couple times, and I don't know if we'd want to go 12% or more right off the chute, because, I mean, do they need us? Or you're saying to me that the sheriff's department would willingly, if needed, go there. So I guess we could try it in some percentage and.
What I'm saying is that the sheriff's office, as a courtesy to us, is willing to come out and help us when we have bigger calls, like a home invasion where people are coming in with guns and putting guns to little kids' heads.
Right.
So,
one option I was thinking, just sitting here thinking, I mean, we've got the numbers to show Elk Run. I don't think anybody just wants to drop Elk Run. I don't feel that way. But maybe we could do, we could approach them with more of a long-term commitment instead of this yearly thing. And within that long-term commitment, go ahead and have a schedule of percentages of rise over the years, and then we can say in 8 years, they would be paying the same thing as Evansdale residences. At least then we're closing that gap on a yearly basis, and they're not surprised by it. But, they are getting a really good deal right now, so.
When was the last time we increased this?
Last year. We increased it by 3% last year.
Okay, so we've been doing annual agreements more or less. I know we've only had it a few years now and again.
Yes.
Okay. So the one thing I always want to bring back, and this is, I'll be perfectly honest, because I've sat on the other side of this, right where Chief Gene is seated as well, only from the fire side. The one thing, I don't want to make this always about money. Now, is the money piece important? Absolutely. We're not just here to give stuff away. We have costs and we have our obligation to our citizens and taxpayers. But this is also communities helping communities. And if we can gain in revenue to help offset our costs, and we can provide a lower cost solution to help a smaller community as well, I think that needs looked at. Now, do we keep the price the same each year? Absolutely not. we always have our increases too. So what I would be in favor of is approaching the mayor, having our mayor approach the mayor to start negotiations with their budget, whether we have a certain percentage in mind. I do think 12 is a bit aggressive, but I do think a yearly increase is still very fair, because everything over this last year has increased, and it's been more than 3%. So that's my opinion on the matter.
And the other thing you don't consider, we have, Justin, even though we talk about a contract price, we have the investment of everything, the building where we house things and that we own everything, so I don't know how I'd like to know how you could ever calculate that into a total cost rather than just patrolling for X amount of dollars. But we're always gonna have probably more invested in it than Elk Run, and I fully understand that. But I agree with you, we need to have dialogue and get it moving, because as time goes on, I don't think anything's gonna go down. They're talking today, gas is going $4 a gallon. So I mean, we're gonna be paying $4 a gallon, driving our squad cars around, and we're out there, and we have maintenance things that get a little high with our cars now. So I think it's more than fair to present to them a program of what we think in a 5-year, whatever, contract to see what we can come up with to kind of get it up a little bit better. I mean, we're probably not gonna get to the range you're talking about, Ron, in our
No, I'm not saying that, but it shouldn't be that we have the investment and we're giving it to somebody else for far less than what we're paying, what's costing us. And then people are laughing at us because of the difference. And so what I'm saying is we should at least be equal. If you take the total population of 2 towns, divide that into the amount of what's asking in the budget, and then you divide it by the population, and you know where you're at, everybody's paying the same, even though we have the investment.
Yeah, maybe you could, to solve all the questions, is put a proposal together, what it would be if it was even, if we were gonna play the even game for the contract versus what we're kind of proposing to be neighborly friendly in a 5-year or whatever program to bring it up to get, I mean, if we get an increase, we're gonna be content with having an increase. But if we show them what it should be, what our citizens pay, and then what we're proposing they pay, I don't wanna steer them off and have them run back to the county and then we get into a triangle deal. Well, Evansdale did this year, the county did this year, because I don't think they're, when you go to their meetings, Mike, are they content with everything? There's no issues with the police?
They seem very happy with us.
That's what I think we should do, is give them both proposals and say, with our citizens, this is what you pay, we're proposing this, and say, hey, on a 5-year contract, well, it's gonna increase to this.
What was it when Waterloo, when they won a proposal from Waterloo here 4 or 5, 6 years ago, whenever it was? Waterloo come to do Evansdale's over $1 million and some dollars. So they don't give it nothing away.
No, I agree with you.
So,
Go ahead, chief.
I just wanted to say, it may sound that I'm against any kind of an increase on Elk Run, and that's not the case. I would support a reasonable increase, a fair and balanced increase.
no, I'm not saying bring it all up,
Right.
but over the years.
Yep.
I mean, we're getting ripped,
Yeah, I don't totally agree with you, but I don't totally disagree.
especially if you come up like the library, evidently they found something cheaper. So they found something cheaper, they went there. And,
I guess I can't speak to the library, but I
I don't know.
think there's more
I
dynamics
just
there.
seen that they went someplace else, what the particulars are, I don't know, so.
Right. Yeah, I just want to be on record saying that I'm not against an increase that's fair and balanced.
To me, the towns are so close, and so I don't care if they get 24-hour service, and we get 24-hour service, it isn't gonna change that much. Because if anything happens, you're over there, and if anything happens, you're here. So, a loop doesn't really amount to that much, whether you're there. Basically, you get 24-hour service anyway, if anything happens, so. And in that scenario, I think they should pay the same as the residents of Evansdale, but to be fair.
Okay.
What do you think, Mayor?
Well, I look at it this way. It's revenue that we wouldn't have at all. I don't think our cost is you know, I don't think.
What you're saying then is we got too much personnel
No,
and too many
I'm not-
vehicles, that's what you're, because if,
We are going down on vehicles, we are going down to 4 vehicles, and what I am saying, it's like, it helps offset our costs for, you know, I mean, we have reports, we get reports every single month. I will review those reports and, you know, see how much time versus how much time we give our city, I guess. I'm not
it'd be like
opposed
me
to an
doing things
increase
for my
or.
competitors and half of what it costs me to do to my customers, I mean, it wouldn't be right, or it wouldn't be in business either.
Yeah, no, I'm not opposed to, you know, reviewing this and, you know, putting a proposal together for you.
No, I'm not saying all at once, just slam it all on them right now. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I think,
$100,000,
You know,
because
Charles had mentioned
they're not geared
8
for it.
years and, you know, even 5 years, you know, over, you know, time.
But I found out same thing with the fire department, when I was mayor of the fire department, we had an argument over it, so they wouldn't go pay anywhere near what it's costing us, so I just said, hey, go someplace else. So they did, and they're paying more money too. Same way at the library, I mean, this, I don't know what the particulars were on it, but it seems something's happening because a couple cities that's paying $10,000 and not paying nothing according to the budget, so what happened there?
Well, personally, I think it was personal.
It could be, like I said, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it had anything to do with what we were charging or whatever. I think it was personal.
No, it could be,
I really do.
I know some of the personnel.
When is their, yeah, they have their budget time now for July too. I think it'd be a good conversation to have with them and see what they say. I mean, you can read them if you put something together and you really get a cold thing, then you'd have to come back and say, here's where we're at with the conversation, and we'd have to decide we don't do it, or we're gonna do it, or we'll suffer the consequences and not patrol them.
I think if all the citizens of Evansdale knew what the difference was and what they were getting police protection for and what we were paying for it, there would be a riot.
I've had a lot of people ask me that over the years, but I don't go into it in detail with them, simply because I don't know the exact figures on everything. But you got a valid point on what you're saying, I mean, we talked about that, I think it's something that really needs to be looked at. Because we're holding all the expenses on it, and we're patrolling for them just what they want, what they need. And, if the county helps us when you go there, Mike, that's great that we got that relationship, but I do agree with that we need to look at it going forward this year and see.
But the county would come here too if we needed.
Oh, yeah, they have been, I see them out there all the
That's part of
time,
their job.
Some homework,
What's that?
some homework for you. I don't know how a community could really complain if they were coming to us and you can show all the facts and figures.
Yeah, I don't either, I don't know.
I don't know why they would really contest a program 5 years or something we have it with the school system, SRO, so I mean, why can't we have the same setup to kind of recoup a little bit yearly?
If it costs us this much, what's budgeted for our population, and their population is about a third, but they're paying what, not even a tenth of what we're paying.
No, it's good, there's good logic, you can figure benefits and everything that we're putting all that, they're not.
See, we're paying $175 approximately per resident, that's man, woman, child, everything, versus $46.26 that they're getting that for. Which is about 3 times, over 3 times.
But you're not thinking to go into them with an equilibrium right now.
No, that'd be a big, even though
That'd
it
be
would be fair doing it that way if everybody paid the same. But since we're not in that position, yeah, you can't hit them, say, well, we need another 100,000. We'll settle for 95.
Charles, are you in favor of looking at and Justin on a contract thing, like approach them with a 5-year contract and so much percentage per year?
I have no problem with that. I was under the understanding that that's what we were gonna do last year, and Troy had thrown around, or the year before, Troy had thrown around 10%, and I was okay with 10% a year. And then all of a sudden it came out, it was 3, so, was pretty put off by that, but, I just really think I agree. And we're not doing them any favors by charging Evansdale, more than Elk Run. So, if that's the case, then the CRC needs to move Elk Run.
Are we even covering the increase in our costs?
We did last year. Yeah. In as far as wages go, but it's not taken into consideration gas. Or vehicle repairs.
Wages went up, everything's going up, but
I understand.
there's gone up in comparison to what our costs have gone up.
No, there's another way you can do this. I mean, we don't always gotta charge them more. We can look at this in the sense of charging them a little bit more and charging the Evansdale residents a little bit less. And have to make up some of that difference as well. So,
The only thing
there are different ways that we can get closer. And at least we don't feel like, we're not doing our job because, the residents are paying so much more than somebody that pretty much, I agree, they get the same service.
The thing is, I think, I figured it out, Evansdale residents are, like I said, is paying $46.26 per person. Evansdale residents paying $175 per person. That's man, woman, child.
Oh, yeah, I don't agree with that.
I think something needs to be looked at pretty seriously and come up with a decision factor, what we're gonna do, and then it'll have to be given to the upfront.
Yeah, we had talked about placing that on the population.
Right, that was a year or so
But
ago.
everybody was a little weary of trying to charge them that. I believe, I'm kind of in agreement, they fired the shot over the bow of this library thing. And, I think we can see right back at them with this and say, hey,
I mean, it's well known, they're getting a very good service at a very reasonable price. So to have increases going forward is not taking advantage of
More
it.
than reasonable.
Well, I'm just, for easy speaking, I'm just saying.
No, I didn't think it was that big a fluctuation either until I figured it out, and that was massive.
It would certainly help the revenue side,
No.
because it's not gonna go down ever.
Because if the county was cheaper, they'd still be with the county.
Well, when we're talking about the police, I wanna kind of thank Mike and Deanne for having a conversation, what we're having on the police, expenses. I think we'll see a real savings in the next year if we go to this program that we're doing, in expenses and repairs. When you start cutting that down, even if you turn a car over every other year, we're gonna be way ahead of the game by what I've seen on the numbers, having newer equipment on the road running. So I'm really excited to see that move forward in the next year.
If time allows, I would like to talk a little bit about this idea of going down to 4 vehicles, just throwing that out there.
Do you want to come up to the podium though, so they can hear you?
Do you wanna talk about that now?
Sure.
Sure. Sorry, I got a little tickle in my throat here. So I just put together some bullet points, kind of outlining some of my views, I guess, regarding this idea of going down to 4 vehicles.
Thank you.
Excuse me. And so, at the top there, it says what's important to consider when we buy a police vehicle. Do we consider that they're durable and built to perform as intended? Or do we look at the resale value? I suppose it's reasonable to consider both those things. But I think what it's important to stress is that these aren't your typical vehicle. These are a workhorse. They're not driven like your average car. They're subject to harder driving conditions. They're driven at high speeds for long distances on occasion. I was just involved in a pursuit that went all the way down to Cedar Rapids. I was doing an average of 100 miles an hour the whole way. Most cars don't do that. Or you wouldn't want to do that with most cars. You know, they're hard braking, there's hard turning, driving in different terrains. We have some guys that were in a pursuit that went across a cornfield. At times, these vehicles can be sitting idle for periods of time while we're out doing investigations or looking for people. Our particular vehicles are sitting out in the elements all year round, because the fire department has the garage, so all of our vehicles sit outside. On a rare occasion, patrol vehicles are used for life-threatening legal intervention. Some of our cars are used for 16 hours of continuous use per day. You can imagine using your car 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. On average, our department patrols roughly 4,650 miles a month across all of our vehicles. And reducing the number of vehicles that we have doesn't change the workload. The workload stays the same. And so we have 8 sworn full-time officers, 4 part-time officers. And if we reduce the number of cars, that workload now is still the same and it's spread out over only 4 vehicles. And so those vehicles would likely be used more frequently. With more use per vehicle, it's likely that we see an increase in maintenance, in my view. There are times when we have 3 officers that are out working, patrolling on a particular night. And on occasion, if an officer is attending training or the car is used, if the car is in shop, or if the car is unavailable for whatever reason, now we're down to 3 cars. During those times, we'd be down to only 3 cars available. Should something happen to one of those vehicles, then we'd be down to 2 cars and 1 officer left unable to do his job. We have had in the past patrol cars that have been involved in an accident. So if we had only 4 cars and we get one of those cars in an accident, now we're down to 3 cars. And it takes time to get a new car, get it outfitted and get it on the road. We just experienced it takes months. So running this department on 3 cars is impossible. I don't think that that's a feasible option. We have a school resource officer who takes a car to school. Sometimes that school resource officer responds to calls. Sometimes those calls are emergencies. And we want that officer responding to emergency calls in a marked unit. You can't have a plain Jane civilian car, running at high speeds or going through intersections and stuff like that. We need that officer to respond with marked vehicles. While it's difficult to measure or gauge, I think it's important to have a patrol car outside of the school. I think it's important that somebody who might consider doing harm to our children in our school, it's important that they see that we have a police officer, see a patrol car outside of our schools. And lastly, in my view, I think the Dodge Chargers are not a very practical vehicle for patrol use. We found out that our Chargers have not been the greatest. We've had a lot of maintenance issues with them. That 09 car, that 09 Charger actually was hit on the interstate. It was my car at the time. I was out on the interstate working an accident, and another car came along and ran into the back of my car. And I think that car probably has a salvage title, if I'm not certain. So the Durangos that we've gone to, those are about $34,000 vehicle, and to outfit that vehicle is about $8,900. Is that an expense that we want to have every year?
I wasn't looking at doing it every year myself, unless I have further conversation with Dan. Some of the things you said, I don't wanna comment in this setting. I'll have a conversation with you, but.
Can I just wrap this up?
Yep, I'm sorry, I apologize.
So the only other thing I would reference is that cost, that 34,000 for a vehicle and the cost of outfit, those funds could potentially be taken away from other capital projects where that money can be used elsewhere. And then lastly, I'd say, can we run a department on 4 vehicles? Yes, probably, but I view it as kind of like not having insurance. I wouldn't recommend it.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many officers do you have per shift? That are.
Well, it varies, so, we have a school resource officer who works Monday through Friday. I work Monday through Thursday, 10-hour shifts, and then we have, usually another officer during the day our shifts rotate, we work 10-hour shifts, but they rotate. Night shifts, second shift, at least one, sometimes two, we have an officer that works a swing shift. And then our third shift, is usually one officer.
Thanks.
Yep. Anything else?
The only thing I'm gonna say now is, I understand what you're saying, but also I think you've probably looked at, the depreciation, like you just said, we've lost, whether it was hit or not, we've lost 2 vehicles, we're gonna get nothing out of them. We spent tens of thousands of dollars on repairs in the last few years that we checked a while back. And I think that could kind of balance itself out in this car deal of, instead of going the length we go, if we rotate them more often with newer vehicles, we're not gonna, I can't believe for a minute if we're driving newer vehicles that we're gonna have as much expenses or more expenses than what we have going on. If we do, is it a driver error or is it a vehicle error purchase? I mean, I just don't see why. I mean, I drive around and see it, and I don't see, there's nothing against your shift, I don't see all the cars out. I basically see 1 or 2 cars away from the CRC, I'd say I'll consider kind of regularly in and out of there. Very seldom have I ever seen all 4 cars gone on a regular basis, all week or all day or all night or whatever. There's always a couple of them sitting, so that's why this first come up. I brought to Deanna, I think we could operate on less cars. And this isn't in stone, Mike, I mean, I'm just trying to try something to save some money. And still give you what you want.
Yep.
It's no attack for the police. But I think money can be saved by the stuff I've seen in the past. And if it can't, then it proves me wrong. But we looked at a lot of reports and GPS reports and mileage and miles on the cars and the whole thing. And I'm gonna look into that a little bit deeper now that you brought this forward. But I think it can work. Does it mean maybe you modify scheduling a little bit? I mean, maybe that could be done. I don't know. It's not my forte. But I think it's something we just need to work together and see how we can, if we can do it and save the taxpayers money instead of all the expenses and the things I see in these cars in the last 3-4 years. It's a tremendous amount of money, tremendous amount of repair money. And plus we got 2 cars that are junk. I mean, they're probably gonna sell $500 or whatever. So the investment in it was not good. It's a patrol car. I understand all that you're saying. But I firmly believe that 4 newer vehicles than what we've maintained in past years will still do the same service, better service for less money as far as the vehicles. And until I get proven on paper that that's wrong.
I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't think the Chargers are a good example.
But we gotta go off of what we've had a current throw at us.
I understand that. And even if we had a whole fleet of brand new vehicles, we had 4 brand new vehicles, one of those vehicles gets wrecked, we're down to 3 vehicles now.
I understand that math.
And we can't operate on 3 vehicles.
Okay, then how many times do we have a wrecked vehicle and we're down to 4 vehicles with a wreck?
I understand that, it doesn't happen very often,
Right.
but it can happen.
Right, I understand that.
Are we looking to get rid of like the Dodge vehicles altogether and try a different brand?
Well, I think the Durangos are good. I like the Durango, we just bought a new Durango. The Chargers, I don't feel so great about.
I don't like any Dodges.
I think
Problems with them every time I report one.
I keep on hearing that Dodges are not, like the parts are bad, like what you're saying, and I keep on hearing that you know, they're expensive to get replaced, so why don't we look at Ford or something else? I don't,
Yeah, I mean,
You know what I
that
mean?
certainly could be done.
I don't know, I haven't looked at any cost, I'm just talking about
Sure.
right off my.
Well, I'm available if anybody has any further questions.
I'll get ahold of you.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
You bet.
We got all that settled.
Well, no matter how you slice it, public safety is the biggest portion of everybody's budget, not just us, everybody in the state of Iowa. It's,
Except Alpine Heights. And I ain't got nothing against Alpine Heights, I'm not running that town down, but I think it should be fair. We got the investment, so you think you'd get it cheaper than the people without the investment, but I say if we pay the same, they're 3 times less than paying the same, actually.
I am glad that, like, Mike gave us this, thank you, cause it does give us your opinion and it helps us base what, you know, the ultimate goal is, cause I think that Steve and Deanna have been working on it and you, and I think that's good, because it will help us maybe come to something that can be worked out and a better solution to what we have now.
I had a question for you, Mike.
Sure.
It doesn't pertain to talk about your budget, but why is the unmarked Charger down at the garage being worked on?
So that vehicle was being just decommissioned. We had to take stuff out of that vehicle to go into the new vehicle. Finally, Raycom has gotten a hold of us and we are finally getting that process going. And that's what I was talking about with how long it takes to get a new vehicle out sometimes, especially with COVID and everything. So we bought that new vehicle, back in April, May? No, maybe June.
July.
Okay, so we bought the new vehicle in July. That vehicle is just now getting outfitted and ready for patrol. The vehicle, the batteries in the vehicle are dead, and it has 2 flat tires. So I had to have the vehicle towed over to Raycom so they could do the work on transferring equipment out of that vehicle so it could go into the new vehicle. Then we had to have it towed over to Advanced Auto, so presumably you want it to at least start and be able to drive it when you try to sell it. So I'm having them put a battery in it and get some tires on it. So that's why it's there.
Great, thank you. Dan, I had one question here without getting real lengthy. What was the flash number of the levy rate? Is that complete, just a rough, complete levy rate based on what you've done here? I don't see a lot of give and take on this budget, really. So what are we looking at? I know you still got to input some stuff, but we can still have some question and answers to your budget, but do you have a number just up front?
I do. Right now, we're at 7.94876. And this budget right now, without all the figures, and I'm assuming once we get the library and the final park budget, we'll probably have to, work around some things. Because right now and we want to keep it really close to where we're at.
Right.
We're at 7.9746. That's a very small increase.
Right.
Matter of fact, I did some, on my personal property, I did some figuring today on what that would cost. But there's been a shift in the valuations, like yours went up substantially.
Yeah, right,
Like, what, 9%?
yeah.
Okay. So I just put some together with, the average for our city is 6.35% increase in the property values. So mine didn't increase that much, but it went from 118,770 to 122,330. The good part about that is the rollback has went down. So for last year, my taxable value was gonna be based on 66,997. And this year, it'll be based on 66,200. $217, even though I went up approximately $5,000 in valuation. Because the rollback is going from 56.4094 to 54.1302. So instead of actually being an increase with this tax rate, it's going down because of the rollback. So when we talk rollback, we'll talk rollback. And I'll pass this down to you, I'll just have to get it back, but this is, if you look at this little chart here, that's what the rollback has been. That's set by the state of Iowa. Cities don't have anything to do with it, but you'll see the rollback, over a 5-year period, what that's been. Huh?
Do you have to take a picture?
Oh, no.
Thanks,
Oh,
sorry.
absolutely.
don't
And I
remember.
have all those, just so you know, I have all those docs, if you ever want a copy
Okay.
of that's what the Iowa League of Cities puts out at budget time every year, so,
And I can probably pull it up too, I just need to know like what I can go look for.
yeah. So my taxes are actually gonna go to so if we stay with this exact same rate as what we have right now, they would go from $532.54. Now, this is just the Iowa the Evansdale portion.
Right.
Down to $526.34 because of the rollback. Now, if we go up just that minute little piece, it would still be $528.37, which is still $4 less. But some people in our city, the average increase was 6.35%, but some people in our city had more and some people had less. So that's an average in our city, but with the rollback, a lot of people are gonna see a reduction in their taxes for this next year.
Well, I've looked at this budget a little bit, I mean, I see some stuff like that I think we could trim, but I think it's pretty close. When, the one thing, are we done with the police thing, or are we still gonna?
If you have any questions.
Get hold of Elk Run Heights and get a meeting with them and just, why should we be doing stuff like, let's say, less than half of the cost of what the citizens of Evansdale are paying?
But that number you give me doesn't include the library and the parks yet to be adjusted.
I have most of the parks filled in, there's only a few items that are not, but I don't have, any of the libraries. I have a few, like janitorial wages, Mid-American Utility, et cetera, but I have no idea what I've reached out to their president and I haven't received a response.
Under the community promo, is that 2,500 fireworks or chamber?
That is gonna be fireworks.
Did,
I budget it in 2 places?
no, I'm just looking at the economic development expenses, 2,500.
Yeah, from what I understand, generally speaking, we do the 2,500 towards the fireworks. The last budget period, they kind of stated that, the Evansdale Chamber was, kind of diminishing, so, we did have some in there last budget, we didn't this year. Last budget, we did have, and then we ended up putting that towards the Ray Bry event for our community.
But there's nothing in here for the chamber this coming year for 2,500 or 5,000.
We put 2,500 in there and that would go towards like the fireworks.
But is the chamber, I mean,
Actually, I do have fireworks above that, so I could probably take that out. We haven't been requested any money by them. We do, that's just one way we can just cut this budget right now.
well, my
Because I
question to you, not to interrupt, is a couple years ago, I brought the fact the chamber, if they're active and they're working for community involvement and development, there's been nothing since I've been on the council, and we just give them the money. And this year was a prime example when she wanted the money for RAGBRAI, and I just think it's a slush fund that needs to stop. Now, if they come forward and they got a real big plan, I don't have any problem supporting them, but I think we can give them that money every year for nothing. That's the way I look at it.
Most of the business people, I think, in Evansdale don't even belong to it.
Yeah, it's,
I think that chamber is kind of, fallen apart, or for lack of better words, lost membership. So,
Mainly due to management.
I will delete that out of there, but I did put, if you see the 015-6428, I do have 2,500 in there budgeted for fireworks. So,
Can I ask about the Boys and Girls Club? It says 0 now. Are we?
yeah, I haven't, it's just not a service that the state auditors feel that we should be donating to. Like with Operation Threshold, they weren't really fond of that one. We're having some issues with, that operation right now.
Okay.
It was just putting an agreement together, but I mean, there just wasn't a way to put an agreement together with them. I have reached out to, some of their employees or what have you. We did do an agreement with Operation Threshold in order to get approval through the state auditors, because this is the way they look at it. If you're gonna do for one, you should be able to give equal to every resident in your city. So I tried to prove the point with them about Boys and Girls Club, how many families they do serve in our city, but it was not enough for them. Because, it might have been, 50 families, and we have 250 families or 300 families. Probably have a lot more than that, but you know what I'm saying, on average.
Where did the wages go up for the library?
The library's not even in there.
Huh?
The library isn't even, the library
You got
right now.
34,844 for,
That was for last year's budget.
this is fiscal year 22, under mine.
For this year that we're in right now,
Oh,
we're
this year,
talking
yeah,
about
we're
next year's
21.
budget, yeah.
Well,
And that wasn't, that,
if we
they
lost
didn't
half of the people that's coming here, we surely don't need to increase wages.
they didn't, what their final budget was like 30,000. So, but we didn't get the budget. So we did not get the library budget last year to approve it with the state of Iowa. So this budget right here is one that we just put together for them. Because we didn't get a budget until after we had approved budget.
Also, a building inspector. He costs more money than we take in. Previous
It's
building,
public service.
the previous building inspectors also in the record for, Albert Ryder. He was a dog catcher, he was a building inspector, he was code enforcement, he was, I think he was on the police department. And, he done all that stuff, and now we got one person doing inspections where we're not even building that much, so in fact, we don't even take in enough to pay his salary. And as far as code enforcement, you might as well throw that out the window because you don't do it.
Well, we need to go through our ordinance for that whole scenario because he was told not to. He was told not to enforce some of the issues that are going on in the city, so, by previous mayors. By Troy Beatty, and then Dick didn't put it
Well, I
into
know there was
action.
something going on, because I was involved in one of them.
Well, I know, not right now because we're going through budget, but that's an ordinance I'd like to put back out there again for you guys to review. An update, because, we went over that for, I think, about 8 months, the ordinance before. And then, you know,
See, prior years, we had the best results of having subbing that out and had a contractor do the inspections, that way there's no insurance, no holidays, no nothing. And they got like either half or 40% of the price for the permit. And they done all the permits. And because Rick, he was, like I said, he was a dog catcher, he was everything. That's what they put him up to be full-time, and still he didn't have enough work to keep him busy. He took off a lot of times. That's why I say I can't see for the amount of building and construction that's going on around here, you don't need a full-time person here.
I don't know, we've built over, I would say in the last 10 years, it's been probably over 50 new houses.
50 new houses, yeah.
50 new houses,
In 10 years.
yeah. So, you know, we've at least done that, well, in the last 5 years, I don't know what it is. You know, it's been heavier in the last 5
You
years.
can build 100 and some houses and still not have enough inspections for a full-time person. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, you
Well,
can inspect 3, 4, 5 houses a day easily.
yeah,
Can I ask another question? I'm sorry. It's under parks and expenses. I'm just asking to get myself familiar with the budget.
Sure.
It doesn't mean anything, but like there is, well,
It does mean
well,
something.
I mean, I'm not meaning anything by it. I'm
I
just
understand.
learning it, sorry. But there's 175,000 under the park, campground, skate park,
mhm.
and then it says 30K dog trail. I mean, can you explain that to me a little?
Sure. So the park had already committed to 10K for the trail that they put through
Yeah, I know they do.
Bunger Park.
Mhm.
We were looking, and this was something we kind of touched on at the last meeting. We really didn't come to any kind of conclusion or approval on that part. But we were, on the next agenda, we were gonna go to Blackhawk Gaming to see if we can get a grant for some of that expense. The dog park is gonna cost around $50,000. They've got $25,000 raised already. So we were gonna seek a grant for $30,000 because we're only getting half. So we have to actually put $30,000 in the budget. If we got $15,000, we'd put $10,000 towards the project and then $5,000 to do some incidentals like water.
Mhm.
We don't have water down there. You know, we'd have, you know, pretty much like the first year of maintenance. There's just gonna be items that we have, and that's what Tom spoke to at the last meeting.
Yeah. But okay, everything was like from 20.
Are you asking what the rest of it is?
Well, why is there 175,000? Yeah.
So if you take, I split them out through different, areas of their budget. So the 175,000, 140,000 of that, 145, I'm sorry, is going towards the campground, the sanitary sewer upgrade.
Okay.
So the 75,000 below that is going towards the same project. Because these are in different funds,
Mhm.
cause some of the, you know, the grant match, that's gonna comes out of the capital improvement fund. And that's what we'll get from LawCon. So I also budgeted that in a revenue.
Okay.
And then the last one is under campground skate park, and that's actually capital improvement as well. The reason I just put them in different places because they mean different things, and that's how we have to record them to the state.
Okay. So like the 100,000 that's under the skate park, that's not improving the skate park, it's
No.
improving the campground.
No, the total project for the sanitary sewer project is $320,000.
Yeah.
So if you add those three items together minus the 30, that's your $320,000.
Okay.
They're just budgeted different
Okay.
sources.
Something I hope Tom will look at too. And I've talked with Tom on the parks, I was looking at like his budget that he has right now, when he talks about what he brings in and everything, but when you look through his current budget, he spent about, taking the grant money out of there, he spent about $155,000 in operational for the year. So when he talks about, he made a lot of money, you know, he made 200 and some thousand. I'm trying to get him to understand, that's not all surplus going to general fund. You spent 3/4 of it. And I'll have a conversation with him there, and I'm glad we'll be done with the grant thing after this sewer thing, so we can get down to what a real reality of expenses versus budget will be.
Right.
But that's something for me to talk with Tom about.
So one thing that I did reach out to Intercom regarding our funding for Lafayette Road. So their fiscal year, I was thinking started the same time ours did, and when I was talking about the DOT, where we get the funding and funneled through the state, but it's federal funds. Their budget starts in October. So I was thinking that next July, or this July, I'm sorry, that we would, because we'd be into FY '23, I was thinking we'd get out the plans, dust them off, have everybody visit about them, because I know everybody has, you know, their idea of how they want this project to go. And then we would start the project on July 1st of 2023, because that's FY '24, and that's when the funds are available. So now everything is, because we couldn't start looking at the plans until October. And then we couldn't start any kind of a project until the following October, and we're not starting a road project in October. So we'll bid it out that October, so it's gonna go in the FY '24 budget, but we're not gonna actually do anything until spring. It would be spring of '24. So now I have a question for you. 102,000 of that MPO funds was gonna be provided to us in FY '23 towards engineering fees. However, that being said, they said they can move them to the next year, FY '24, and that would just be more money that we would have for the project, $102,000 more. The plans are already completed,
That's what I thought, yeah.
you know, for the way that you all agreed that you wanted it done at the time. I know there's certain council members that have different opinions about that project. I don't wanna go into that tonight.
I'm not gonna throw a monkey wrench in it, so.
I'm not going into that tonight. Cause that's a whole nother thing. But what I'm saying is I really don't think we need to budget anything for that project this next fiscal year.
Do you have it in here?
I do, I have it under capital projects. That's 302 fund, and it is just beyond employee benefits and debt service, it's the next page. Sorry, it doesn't have a name on it. I did budget that,
Or just the 120?
the engineering fees, yeah, I did budget the engineering fees.
I guess, I thought we already paid the engineer fees and everything on that.
Well, we have, but you know, they're gonna charge us something, and I have to go through and see exactly, you know, go through the agreements. That's not a priority for me right now,
Right.
cause this is in the future. But go through, see what we've paid them, I know approximately what we've paid them. And go through, I know that they charged us a little bit extra than the original contract because we stopped it and then we made them come back again
Right,
when Troy came back in the office.
right.
So they did charge us for that, but I think we've paid them through what our original agreement was.
That's what I thought.
The next step is, you know, but I have to really look through each piece of that agreement and see exactly what we are paying for the agreement that we made with them. And I think the agreement was like $229,000.
That rings a bell, yeah.
Yeah. So that was just one thing I just wanted to bring up, and I really thought it was gonna be July of 2023, we'd be working on that project.
That's what I thought.
But their fiscal year goes from October to September.
So this 120,000 you're saying that we could probably remove and put in 2024?
Yeah,
And then where would that 120 go? Would it just go back like into a general fund?
Well, that's actually capital improvement. I could just take it out of there. It just would go away. It's not in the general fund. Because it's, your project revenues are above there. So when you have a capital project, everything is, the funding that was above there is the funding that we were gonna receive from another source. What I did put in there is, and I need to manipulate those figures because I had some different ones that I just received today, is regarding Eagles Landing. And I needed to budget something in there, but I'm wondering if you guys even want to tackle that right now.
Tonight,
What
do you mean right now?
I mean, I want you to think about, I really want you to think about it. Do we want to wait until we get the majority of the lots sold? Now we have, if we get this RISE grant, we have 3 years to use it, okay? But, we have to show that we're budgeting money for it, for the project. Like I said, those numbers will be reduced to a certain extent. But is that something that we even want to put in this next?
Do you think we need to put it in the next budget or can it wait?
Well,
You're the one that does this up. I mean, you do a good job.
I guess I will ask that question to Intercog. Do we
Yeah,
have
see what
to
they tell you.
show it in the budget?
I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Ask them. Justin, do you or Charles have anything to ask on the budget? You're awful quiet.
I'm good, just being the remote, it's a little harder with the interaction, so no, I'm definitely paying attention and writing down lots of them.
Well, I would take it to roads and bridges and, I just had a couple of questions and I think I know the answers, but I wanna ask you. I thought, when we talked last year, we were gonna make an amendment and we were gonna take, Chris's, salary out of sewer. I know you talked to me about 5 or 10,000, I see it's in there, but I thought we were gonna put it all in the road, bridges and sidewalk, being we've got the people's contract on the sewer side, I didn't think we need to have a $10,000 surplus under his title or his number in the sewer.
I did put, I thought we were in agreement on that 10,000. I thought that was acceptable to both you and Councilor Beam. If you feel that I need to reduce that
Well, the reason
to
I'm asking,
because he does get called out. I don't know if I can't say it's $10,000 worth. Chris, do you want to speak to that?
I mean, I don't think it's legal for us not to at least pay some of my wages out of that, being that I do all the sewer blockages and we're cleaning all that, I don't think we legally can not pay me out of that, some sort of wage, because I do manage that, all the collection system. And I do help people services too, so.
well, I was just looking at the new budget of the proposed director's pay, and I just thought the 10,000 kind of made it higher than what his salary or pay or hourly was for the year. That's the reason I just asked it. That's the first question. And then is the additional money in streets, maintenance expense, you lowered one, you lowered one, but you raised another one. Is that because of central, or is that just because of what?
Well, it depends on where it's coming out of. So 005, we have surplus in that account, and that is loss funds.
Right.
So that's actually at 200,000, because the majority of that project is gonna be paid out of there. There was a couple of smaller items that Chris and I talked about, and I reduced the street maintenance, the 110, which is on page 2 of 3. It's the last item just before the totals. I reduced that from 100,000 down to 50,000. So that's just putting, in lost, we only get so many funds for lost, like they're saying it's gonna be increased this year, so I'm hoping I'm not. But we're gonna receive 380,000 in lost funds. And just, Christie, I'm gonna just say this for your knowledge.
Thanks.
When we do the ballot for lost, and that's local option sales tax, that 1%, a long time ago it was set and not been changed since then. 50% of it goes towards road work,
Okay.
road repair. So we're
Lots of
obligated,
information, got it.
we're obligated to use that 50% towards road work, so. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
When do we expect to have all of the numbers in? I know the parks are almost there, everyone else is good, but like you said, it sounds like it's been a struggle at times with the library.
Yeah, Joel, he is a library board member that's here tonight. Not to single him out, but he said tonight that they were working on it and probably would have some kind of budget to us next week, right?
Next meeting.
Yeah, that's what their intentions are. And as far as parks, I think they're gonna do their final meeting that first week of February, and it'll be approved then. So we should have a complete put together budget, not at Tuesday's meeting, but at the following. No, probably not, cause the,
Probably gonna be 2 meetings.
yeah, see, they don't meet until the 7th.
The 15th.
Okay, so we may need to schedule a special meeting again in February. Well, our second meeting would be, no, it wouldn't.
Is that
Our-
coming March 15th?
Oh, it is. No, we do meet on the 1st.
The
Okay.
first and the 15th.
So our second meeting in February anyway will be on the 15th. So I would assume that we would have everybody's budget within, at that time. And I'll be having conversations with all of you, the closer we get. So because, we're gonna have to start scheduling the max levy hearing and then, the final budget hearing. So there's a really tight timeline for all that. Anything else for this evening, guys?
Not really from
Are you
that.
gonna check into like Elkhorn Heights and, no?
We probably wouldn't have an answer by our next meeting though, I doubt it, would we? If you're gonna,
Oh, no.
yeah, it's too early to think we have something.
No, we have things that we have to put together anyway. I would ask you a question regarding, our next agenda. There's been some chatter going back and forth. I think I just need to bring it to council so we can get this resolved regarding lot 6. I hear some opinions and I'm in agreement, and then I hear some other ideas and I'm like, okay, well, that all needs to be taken into consideration. And then also, we did have those 2 other offers for lots 1 and 3. So do you think we should bring them all to our next council meeting and get going on this?
What are you talking about?
Offers on the lots,
What lots?
the lots in Eagles Landing.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know where you
Yeah, yeah, no, it's all right.
yeah, I don't know what's going on down there. 'Cause I haven't-
Sure.
nobody's told me nothing.
Well, at our meeting on Friday, that's when I let you guys know we got offers on lots 1 and 3.
Yeah, you said
I brought
something,
that
didn't say from who or what, you offered or nothing.
Well, it's a set price. The land's going for $1 and they have to pay the realtor fee of $30,000.
I'll buy a couple of them,
Okay.
dollar piece.
No, 30,000.
I'll buy them home.
It's $30,000 $1.
30,000, so.
$30,000 $1.
What are we gonna do?
And you have to have a minimum assessed value of your building. Your minimum assessed value of the building is $700,000.
Do we need to have a conversation with officials to scrap him or get out of the contract or whatever? Were these from him, they weren't from him, whether this was from Benda and somebody else, or was this from Chris?
No, we got the offers from Chris.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
they
think
had
the buyer was Benda.
Jim Benda. The offers came from Jim Benda.
Who are they, or isn't that all for,
Jim Benda is,
I know Jim, yeah.
okay. He made an offer on
Oh, he's
Lots
buying
1
them-
and 3.
he's buying them himself,
him and a developer.
no.
And he didn't disclose that
We don't
developer.
know who the developer is,
No.
we don't know what they're gonna build.
Well, from what I understand and what he told me, because I had a conversation, I'm like, well, this kind of leaves us a little empty-handed with these offers. And he said, they're doing national chains. They're gonna do like a Taco Bell, not any burger joints, but, coffee shops. We talked about Dollar Fresh. Some of those copies that I made for you last Friday, those are the type of buildings that are coming there. But they're gonna be national chains, is what he indicated.
So what lot numbers, 1, 3, and 6?
1 and 3, and then the 6
The
was
other guy you sent
the
out to.
gentleman from Cedar Rapids. And he was gonna put up a building that was gonna be used to lease out, so we have no idea. And I think we really need some language on subletting, before
How much property did the city buy?
64 acres.
Yeah, but where's it go, down Bourbon Drive or? beyond
That's
that?
gonna be the second phase is
But you
Berlin
own,
Drive.
You own, the city owns on the other side.
Yeah, we own even on the other side of the green space, the,
Brick or whatever's on there.
we own 14 acres even east of that.
Gonna plant garden in it next year?
Not a bad idea. We got a really nice retention pond if you wanna get crafty and
For the sweet corn.
make that a pretty
City
place.
can make some money off their corn.
Speaking of which, I wanted to let you know too that Rotting House had an agreement with the city to plant cereal rye, and he canceled that agreement. I mean, it was only just for $1 a year, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to let you know that he's not gonna be doing that going forward. But do you want me to place them on the next agenda?
Are we ready to go versus the conversation we had Friday with those other people? Are we really ready to go to accept? We don't know A, B, C. I was kind of confused listening to them. I mean, what they said is good, but doesn't that have to be in place before we actually are selling off parcels and understand the right way? I think we gotta have dialogue from them first to be going the right path to sell, unless I'm all wrong on.
For the design standards,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I'd like to have it right away, but
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
when are they gonna come back? You gotta have a bunch of time.
Well, she was gonna reach out to me right away this week. I haven't heard from her yet, but I did leave her a voicemail today.
I think that's what we need to do first. And you can tell them, yeah, we're working on it. I'm not for the garage pole barn building that you sent the thing out to us. I just don't think that's proper right in that area to put that there. We wanna have nice things like we've seen the pictures, they're national chains, and just work our way, don't get anxious, okay, we got a guy here, let's just take that so we can, I mean, I'd rather wait a while on that one. The other ones I don't have a problem with.
Would it be willing, even if we didn't have the design standards, to move forward with the two lots, the 1 and 3, if we put into the contract that it was for a national chain? I mean, we can put anything in the contract that we want. And go that route and just put the design standards for those particular lots and move forward.
Is there a time frame?
They have, once we accept the contract, they have 180 days to back out.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, should we not get started on that?
So that might be even more reason to get the design standards. We may have them for the next meeting, the next meeting's just a week away. So if we do have them and could, get them out to you in advance for your review,
Right.
then maybe we can approve them and have that as a discussion item for those lots.
Cause don't you think that they're gonna wanna know, like, what their stipulations are before they agree to
Yeah.
purchase those 2 lots?
And the reason I
I don't know.
asked is because the guy that made the first offer for lot 6 is, wants to know how soon we're doing this.
Well, and if we have a design standard that doesn't quite fit what he's looking for, we may not have to reject that offer, we may just have him
Yeah,
make that decision on his own.
I totally agree. Okay. Well, if nothing else, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Are we gonna do this at a council setting another round, or are we gonna have another meeting?
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's this one.
I don't know if you need to have it on the next meeting. Yes, I will, just put it on there, just in case, in your reviewing time that you think of something else that you wanna discuss. I mean, we'll have probably the bigger discussion of all on the 15th of February. When we have all of our numbers in.
Okay, then nobody has any questions or answers, I'd make a motion to adjourn. Everybody wants to stay.
Second.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Hello?
We don't do all in favor, by the way. It just,
well, I'm in favor.
I'm in favor as well.
I vote Christie, I'll say aye.
Thanks, sir.